Hi, it's Ray Michaels here, Total News at CPAC. We're here with Josh Philipp. He's with Epoch Times, and you are the investigative reporter there.
Yep, and been there since 2006, investigative reporter since 2008, and it's been an interesting run to say the least.
Wow, what a ride that you've had. Now, I understand you're doing panels here at CPAC as well?
Yeah, I just moderated a panel on vaccines, vaccine injury, virus origin. Of course, I did a documentary actually 3 years ago, interviews done at CPAC, you may remember, folks. That was when I investigated the origins of COVID-19. And lo and behold, we declared at that time that the wet market narrative, remember that raw seafood market narrative and the bat soup, remember that whole narrative? We found that that was fake. And we said that, well, where did it come from? We looked into the Wuhan Institute of Virology, the Chinese laboratory that's now being talked about. And I was called a conspiracy theorist. I was attacked, censored. Facebook went after me. YouTube was demonetizing me, saying I was a racist or I was spreading hateful rhetoric. And here we are 3 years later, everything we said was true. In fact, the FBI Director Christopher Wray just came out and said that they've now assessed, FBI has assessed, the COVID-19 very likely leaked from a Chinese laboratory.
All right, and I'm sure that you're getting letter after letter, call after call, saying that they're sorry.
No, unfortunately.
Could you imagine? I don't think that would ever even happen. It's just they brush it under the rug. I don't get this. So you're doing some new things coming up here too.
That's right, always. So right now I'm working on a new documentary about ideological subversion, telling the story of Yuri Bezmenov. Fantastic interview, if you've never seen it. Done in 1983, a Soviet defector warns that the Soviet Union was trying to subvert the United States by basically decaying the culture and demoralizing the people of the country. And he explains basically the process through which you can conquer a country using ideology. So I'm doing a documentary on him, his life, his story, and also what's happening that they warned about back then, and how do we see it happening now. That'll be out probably this summer.
Wow, that's exciting, and that'll be available on Amazon as well?
We'll see. I'm not sure the release yet, but we're looking at a few different options.
You know, it's amazing because our government was built on e pluribus unum, out of many one, right? But we're just dividing each other over and over again, right? Divide and conquer.
We are, and you know, when you understand communism, because I think that's really what we're up against. We're up against really a well-developed, very long-term system of communism applied to American principles. Because if we understand Marxism, right, it was the bourgeoisie against the proletariat. It was class struggle, and it was that kind of stuff. They realized it didn't work in America because we generally have the ability to move between classes. I can start as a very poor person. By the end of my life, I could become, upper class if I really worked hard for it, right? And if you're an upper class guy, you can make a lot of bad decisions and end up, dirt poor. Yeah. It's not necessarily
not you, but
you never know. Hopefully not. But that narrative didn't work for Americans, and so what do? The Frankfurt School looked at this, which was the School of Marxist Studies, right? Looked at this and remade it, and they came up with the idea of critical theory. And critical theory is the idea of applying that Marxist dialectic of the bourgeois and the proletariat class struggle to every single division, every single nature of opposites. Men and women, you have gender, critical gender theory. Between races, you have critical race theory. You have things pushing children against parents and dividing by generation. You have things looking at every single category of our world that, as you mentioned, e pluribus unum, that unites us despite our differences, and they're trying to drive wedges between it all. And really, that's just heart and soul what Marxism is. It's about struggle and atheism, technically.
Yeah. You take God out, and it's a free for all.
Well, yeah, and of course, communism does that intentionally, right? It's always been, the main targets really have typically been people with traditional values and religious people. You look at, for example, under Stalin or under Lenin, they were killing Christians, killing, of course, wealthy peasants, but oftentimes going after the cultural elite and people who held the traditional views as well as the religious views. In China, even as we speak, they still persecute Falun Gong practitioners, Muslims, the Uyghurs, they persecute house Christians, and again, it's just persecution against religious people and people who hold those kinds of views. It was explained to me by a friend of mine who actually defected from China to the United States, an idea of why they do that. And he says it's because religion gives a basic foundation between right and wrong. It gives a basic idea where you say, okay, what the government is doing right now is moral, or what the government is doing right now is immoral. Of course, and also on a personal level. You have a moral standard through which to judge action. But when you remove that, what becomes the basis of judgment? Well, that's when you get political correctness.
Right.
Meaning, whatever politics says is righteous is righteous. Whatever politics says is evil is evil. Keep in mind, the idea of political correctness came about in 1967 under Mao Zedong. And again, it's a political moral system. Government action becomes the basis of morality, the system that judges what is immoral or moral, if you remove religion. And so any of these systems that wants to do immoral things needs to destroy religion in order to validate that.
Yeah, we always get, well, it's legal, right?
Yeah.
All right, tell us how we can get in touch with you.
You can see my show Crossroads on Epoch TV. That's epochtv.com.
All right, and anything else you want to share with everybody here at CPAC?
Oh, just a pleasure being here, and thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's great having you here, as always. Josh, thanks so much. I'm Ray Michaels, here for Total News at CPAC 2023. Until next time, we'll see you real soon.